couple of days ago, I'm talking about David Vitter saying, hey, wait a minute, if we're going to give money to these big three car makers, that we need to say, hey, what is your restructuring plan right now, as opposed to later, when we've already given them the money. Now, they claim they need time to put the plan together, and I understand that, but you know what? If you were going to come to Congress to ask for $14, $15 billion, initially they asked for $25 billion, you'd think you'd come in with a plan, right? So I had some degree of sympathy for David Vitter's position. He's a Republican from Louisiana, and I said in that commentary, hey, you know what? Republicans are serving a useful purpose here, because we need a counterbalance in this discussion, and we need somebody to make sure that these car makers aren't going to just take the money and do the same old things over and over. Now, one would hope that the Democrats would ask for the same thing, but I thought that Republicans generally were being somewhat productive in demanding more. And I gave them the slight benefit of the doubt and said, look, they might have other intentions, but one of their intentions seems to be to make sure that we don't waste the taxpayer money. Oh, poor, naive old Jank. How could you give any Republican the benefit of the doubt? Have I learned nothing from the last 8 years? So today we find out why the Republicans were doing it in the first place. Taxpayer money? They care about citizens? Come on, what was I thinking? No, of course not. No, it turns out the reality is their main objective was to kill the union. And all this negotiation the Republicans were doing was not on the behalf of the taxpayer. What they want to do is make sure the unions got as little money as possible. The United Auto Workers, they're the ones that were causing the problem in the first place. Now, one of the problems with that is, of course, as usual, the facts don't match up at all. The United Auto Workers, on average, from the big three in, of course, in the Michigan area, make about a little over $29 an hour, on average, okay? So how much do they make in the Toyota plant down in the South, here in America? Non-union workers. They make $30. Now, is it a fair comparison? Not exactly, because the United Auto Workers also have great benefits, and their benefits then wind up, in effect, giving them a better salary than the non-union workers that work at Toyota. I get that, right? But it's not out of control. It's not like one's getting $100, the other one's getting $20 an hour. No, they're in the same ballpark. The UAW gets a little bit better deal for their workers, and, God bless their heart. That's what they're there for, right? Unions organized so they can get a little bit better wage for their workers. Now, are the Republicans going after the CEOs with the same kind of fervor? Are they saying, hey, wait a minute now. If we're going to, give you all this money, I want to make sure that the CEOs aren't walking away with all of it, right? No, there isn't much talk about the CEO money. There isn't much talk about the executive compensation. But the people actually putting the cars together, they're going to break their back. Can't have it. What are they doing, making $29 an hour? No, can't have it. So now you think, come on, are the Republicans this cruel that all they care about is making sure that they crush the workers at these places before they have any kind of deal? Well, the answer to that is yes and no. Yes, they are that cruel in general, but no, in this case, it's not so much about that. What is their real purpose? Now, remember, rule number one in politics, we discussed it either in the post-game show yesterday or at some point in the show, it's TOA, TOA. Okay, they're worried about their own ass. TOA, their own ass. That's always their rule number one. So what does the Republican politicians have anything to do with the UAW and the union? Unions give money to Democrats. And they make it harder for Republicans to get elected. So the Republicans think, there's a situation here where maybe we could bankrupt these companies, and thereby they can't pay the pensions that they owe the unions, possibly, and they can't pay their workers, and then if they can't pay their workers, they can't pay the unions. The unions have less money, and they can and then if they have less money, they have less money to give to Democrats, which protects our own ass. So the Republicans think, fantastic. If they go out of business, then the unions are greatly diminished, and that helps us to get reelected. Now, mind you, in the process, experts believe that we might lose 3 million jobs in America. 3 million jobs. Now, but do they care about that? No, that's your business. That's not their business. They don't give a damn. And if the unions go under, the companies go under, and then the unions go under, great. Well, if that's the best case scenario. But the second best case scenario is they don't get this money, and the companies aren't completely out of business, but they go bankrupt. And if they go bankrupt, then, as I explained, they don't necessarily have to pay all their workers. Oh, Republicans are in ecstasy over that. Oh, not paying the workers. Oh, that's so good, that's so good. Come on, let's drive them into bankruptcy. Okay, and plus then the unions don't get their money. And then third scenario, not quite as good, but at least was something better than you could, hope for before, which is they say, all right, we demand huge concessions out of the unions, make it as little money as humanly possible, let everybody else make as much money as they want. We're not interested in that, but we just want to squeeze the workers as much as we possibly can, so that at the end we'll have a deal, but the deal will involve the union workers getting less money, which we think then will lead to the unions getting less money. So this whole negotiation, and it fell through, by the way. They killed it. They killed the deal. They killed the deal, and the whole negotiation was, it turns out, all about the Republican politicians worrying almost exclusively about themselves. Oh, by the way, there was one extra additional little benefit for some of those guys. A lot of the Republican senators are in the South. And in the South, we have factories as well that make cars. But they're not American cars. They're Toyota, Honda, Nissan, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. And so a guy like Richard Shelby, senator from Alabama, thinks, I kill the unions, I help the Nissan plant in my home state, or the Toyota plant in my home state. He's like, I come out a winner every way. Except 3 million Americans are now out of a job, the recession gets 1,000 times worse, and we might break the back of the economy. But once again, the Republican senator thinks, what does that have to do with me? My seat, right here, my seat, is a little bit more protected. And that's what they care about.